Welcome back to Toy With Me. I am your co host, Madam Trixie. Toy With Me is an in person and live stream broadcast where we talk kink, community, and connection with zero shame and a lot of sparkle.
Oh, okay. We just gonna keep it moving because this is the LIVE show. And guess what? I am your co-host, Legendary. Here at Toy With Me, we explore ways to spice up your sex life, whether it's when you're alone with a partner or maybe in a group.
Okay. Toy With Me is where pleasure, curiosity, and connection are for everybody. And tonight, we mean that literally.
This episode is entitled Sexy for Everybody, Disability, Access, and Intimacy. And we're centering the experiences of people with visible and non-visible disabilities.
Yes, we're talking about access, communication, confidence, and the truth that pleasure is not one size fits all.
It's show lane. Before we get started, we would like to introduce our amazing, beautiful guest, the guest who are here help us unpack our discussion for today.
Yes, so first off, I want to say thank you all for being here, and I want to welcome Ray Simone. Ray, can you introduce yourself and share how you work or live, your lived experience connects to disability, access, intimacy, and what brought you into this space?
Sure. Hi, my name is Ray Simone. What brought me into this? And I was born with a disability, cerebral palsy, and so how it affects how I move in the world. But with that lived experience, also talks about intimacy and how, for a larger society, that they infantilize disabled people, specifically those of us who have CP. But one of the things that over the years I was learning was that they don't have a conversation about sex with folks with disabilities, especially when you are coming up and you have sex ed. They don't have a conversation, and that leaves us in a space of like wanting to experience intimacy, but not knowing how to go about it with our different mobilities.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
That's deep. Thank you for being here, for being vulnerable and sharing your story. Next, we would like to introduce our second guest, Eric. Eric, tell us about your role, your belief on holding space about pleasure, access, intimacy, and that you think people need to hear.
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone for having me tonight. My name is Eric Dresner. I use he and they pronouns, and I currently serve as the Senior Manager of Outreach and Early Intervention Services at Project Vida. I am a queer individual that's been living with HIV for 12 years. And I'm really grateful to be here to talk about the intersection of HIV and disability. It's this thing that as a sexual wellness counselor, so I'm a sexual wellness counselor and an HIV and STI screener as well. So as a human being with HIV and also one that talks with folks living with HIV, we've spent a lot of the last 15 to 20 years talking about demystifying HIV as not necessarily a disability. Mm-hmm. But we are living in a time right now where our oppressive regime is basically stripping away the ability for folks to access benefits, and some stipulations and exceptions to those strippings away include reclaiming HIV as a disability, and kind of been talking a lot with folks about what that means and how to kind of separate their perceptions of disability with how it's classified on kind of a governmental level. So that's my spiel about that. But as far as a belief that I feel is necessary about pleasure, I think that pleasure is a universal human right, and that everybody should have access to the sexual intimacy, pleasure, joy that they deserve and that they want to have.
Yes, thank you. So to get us started, I want to ask, how do we define disability and accessibility? So I think I'm gonna veggie back it to you.
Sure. Well, so if we're looking at the word from like the lens of like Webster's dictionary, I think it's referring to folks that have an ability to access the world, whether that be, either physically, mentally, emotionally, behaviorally, in a way that diverges from what is considered to be normal. I think our job truly, though, is to recognize that like that normal is just a construct that is completely mutable. Like we can change that. So disability in itself, while it's like, I think it's really important to recognize disability because we are all different. But I also think it's this thing that also creates a wedge and a wall between people, and recognizing that like we can celebrate that and not necessarily use it as a way to separate people and to, as you said, infantilize people.
Yes. Thank you for that. What about you, Ray?
Okay, so for me, disability is such a big umbrella and encompasses so much. And I think a lot of times we don't have those conversations about neurodivergency versus physical disabilities and how both of those can converge at once. But then we also have a conversation about accessibility and what does that look like? So for somebody who may be wheelchair bound or bound to a hospital bed, there may be in active sex and engaging in sexual acts, maybe using a Hoyer lift. Yes, we have talked about sex swings, but the same things that are accessible into your home for medical equipment can be used for those same acts. And so we kind of bridge those gaps.
What's a Hoyer lift?
I was just about to say that.
So a Hoyer lift essentially a equipment that they use to get people out of bed, to transfer them to the beds or wheelchairs or any mobility aid that they may have. You see them more so with folks who are completely bedbound. And you see them more so in nursing homes and folks who may what they consider morbidly obese in some cases. But if you look at the Hoyer lift and what equipment they use in the same coverage, you can also apply to that sex swing that people have on their back doors, on the door to that door. Like it's the same material, it's the same equipment. It's just using a Hoyer lift to hoist somebody up in the air
Nice.
and suspend them from there in the air.
So we tell everybody this is like the living room where everybody don't know what we're talking about. So we just kind of bring everybody else in.
That's real. So you're using that sex swing, but instead of spending a little bit less money on that sex swing, because that Hoyer lift is about $5,000.
Okay.
So it's not just something that most people assume who work with folks with disabilities and so forth and so on. And they say Hoyer lift, they know what it means, but they also know it's expensive. So I'm like, hey, get your money's worth.
Right?
Multitask.
Be ingenious, right?
Nice. Okay, and do you want to answer that too?
Who, me?
Yes, you, my love.
No, I just, one of the things that that it just makes me think about is sometimes until we diagnosed with a particular disability, we don't even know what we need as accessibilities. I've had some moments where I'm like, where I had HR say, okay, what kind of accessibility you need? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so it's also about when we talk about vetting and getting to know how we vet someone else, it's also how do we vet ourselves about figuring out, okay, this is what I need so that my life can be easier. And that's what I think about accessibility.
Nice. Thank you. I also want to ask you, why is it so important to include disability in conversation about sex, kink, and intimacy?
I mean, I can take it first.
Yeah.
I mean, I think having that, well, first of all, you know, we are sitting in a room with folks that very well may have non-visible disability. Like, I'm somebody living with non-visible disability in a variety of ways. And having that conversation, broaching that topic, shows that you're caring for not only your partner, but the partners that you might have in the future. You're establishing yourself as somebody who is like a conscientious human being. So.
Love it. Right?
Okay. Because I think so most people in the world are not born with their disabilities. Disabilities happen at some point of life. It may be temporary, may be permanent. And so when we have those conversations about sex and kink and intimacy, I think we have to have those conversations because what may work for you a year ago may be completely different now because circumstances. And so those conversations really need to happen because like life changes, life happens. As much as these folks run around on these electric scooters, at some point, like we have to have those conversations about what does that look like? Because again, when people are disabled, the infantilization and that loss of them former selves, and then they feel like they have to be robbed of that intimacy.
That's deep.
Yeah.
The easiest way to, at least for me to think about it, I used to always want to try electroplay. And then found out I got some heart issues. And so
This is not for you.
it is not for me. But, you know, there are rewind, I had a partner who we didn't have those conversations and did not know that he had a pacemaker. And I didn't do electroplay because that's devil. Listen,
We
I've
got
been,
yucky yums in here.
no, I just meant I know me. I've been and shocked my own self for trying to shock somebody else. But long story short, like those are conversations you have to like really have with people because like what if I did not have that conversation with someone and they shocked me and I end up going to the upper room.
How he go on top of me?
That is my fantasy. That is my fantasy.
Yeah, I think for myself, when I think about that, it's just good manners, right? To actually have a real conversation with somebody that you want to have some intimacy with. And, you know, in thinking about like, I'm thinking about rope shibari. You have to have certain conversations with people because you could really have some damage. Like, you know, you can bruise a person if they have different circulatory issues, you could harm them even more. For myself, you know, I have a plate in one of my foot and I do. And so you can't, listen, I have the scar and sometimes it feels like electroplay happening on its own. But, you know, I can't do some things because it will hurt me. And so it takes a person to really care for me to ask those questions. And it takes for me to care about my own self, to know that I have the right to have a conversation with you so that I can be informed and have real consent around what I want to engage with you around my pleasure, right? So.
And that just goes back to something that we always say, that consent is sexy.
It is.
And we also always need to remember that we're asking things and asking all the questions to making sure we're thinking about people's consent. There's a harmful myth that people with disabilities are either not sexual or not desirable. First of all, where did sugar honey iced tea come from? And how do we challenge them? You knew I was coming straight to you.
I know.
Be prepared. Come on.
Listen, I think it starts off young, and especially if you come from a space where you're born with your disability. Like it starts off in grade school when everybody else is having a sex ed conversation, and they put you in the hallway and give you a coloring sheet talking about it don't concern you. I've literally had that happen, and my parents were like, "Nah, she fine. Let her go and have that conversation." And so when we infantilize people, we take away their agency so quickly, but then makes them so more susceptible to harm because you're not giving them consent. And they don't know what consent looks like and having those conversations in depth. I say this as somebody who works in the space of being a dominatrix. What does desire look like? Yeah. My clientele are mostly disabled men because they don't know what desire looks like. And that idea that they've been robbed of it because nobody engages in that conversation. And so when you're sitting there saying like, what does pleasure look like to you? And they're like, what? And so like,
They don't even know they have the rights
yeah,
to have body autonomy and pleasure autonomy.
And it gets to that point that I'll be honest, some of my clients were like in their 60s and were like, I've never received pleasure. And I'm like, damn, I go 60 days. I'm hearing colors and shit. I don't know what you're going with you. But that's the reality that because even if you were able-bodied prior to your disability, that infantilization comes into place, and they're sitting up there thinking of you as a child and that childlike mindset, and they cannot see you as a whole human and feel like that person has autonomy to make decisions and sexual decisions for themselves, and that robs them of experiences. And that just creates a space of bitterness.
And so I can talk a little bit about how I propose we challenge it. So first of all, as folks living with disabilities, I'm kind of going to try to speak from both sides, like have sex with people. Like have sex with people because we are sexual beings and it is our right to have sex with other people. And like talk to people that are disabled about the sex that they want to have. I know this is going to be a constant theme, having the conversation, treating folks like they're your equal instead of your lesser than. And yeah, watch porn with disabled people, make porn with disabled people, like all of that, please.
Y'all know how I feel about porn. I'm not going to say it right now.
Madame,
They didn't feel.
Madame,
Or don't watch porn, do whatever you want.
Madame.
Okay. How do we challenge folks with? I'm just going to live out loud, and I'm going to ask people to, like you said, treat each other the way you want to be treated, and create spaces for people to feel safe and talk about what's going on with them, giving people tools so that they can have access to their autonomy, and then take that out into the world. That's, for me, how I ask for people to change and challenge stuff. So.
And I will, the only part I will add is making sure that we're advocates of others.
Yes.
I work with those with learning disabilities, developmental delays, and I'm trying to think of a way to say it. We have some amazing guardians, or as my supervisors say we have some amazing fake guardians.
Yes.
You ain't went to court to be the guardian, but you decide that you can make this adult decisions for a person. So like, just because they may be 50 some years old with a 15-year-old mentality, it is okay for you to have that conversation with you, like you were saying about simple as understanding their body. And this is why sometimes adults and children do not know how to clean themselves properly because nobody has explained that.
Yes.
And so that is like my biggest issue working in the work, is that you have people who are forcing adults to have that Gestapo one thought brain, when if that was the case, we would all be like, think like an orange and moving right along.
Okay.
I think we got a game.
We do got a game. So, all right, to our guest, grab your cards. So we're going to get into our game called This or That, Access and Intimacy Edition.
So there are no right answers or wrong answers, just your preference.
Yes, and if you prefer the first option, you're going to say this, right? And if you prefer the second, you will say that.
All right, now that we can know how to look at the words, our online audience can drop your responses in the chat. And if you are here in person, just yell it out.
Yeah. All right. So, verbal communication or nonverbal cues?
Yeah, a little bit. But
Planned intimacy or spontaneous moments? Look now, I forgot. What was the damn first one? The first one was shit.
The first one was this. You could be with this, or you could be with.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, so the next one is.
Quiet environments or sensory rich environments? I don't think I can answer this one because is it like creepy quiet? Like,
there's so many ways that could go.
right. Or sensory rich environments. Like how much? Like if we're at a circus,
Smell really good.
don't get me started with that smells. Don't. We know how I feel about the smells. Okay. Touch focused connection or conversation focused? Adaptive tools or body positioning adjustments?
Now what that is? Right?
We go back to that Hoyer lift.
Listen,
It's like it is the most expensive sling of all time, but like we're here for
some
it.
days I'm in the 101 class, and sometimes I'm in the 99 class. I just need y'all to
Listen.
Or you might be sitting outside the door listening in, trying to figure out like,
see. That's Black History. That's Black History. I couldn't sit in the class. Anywho,
But really, wouldn't you have to almost have both? Like really, just be depending on the scenario, right? For the adaptive tools or body positioning, maybe just depends on who you're with.
yeah, okay. Now I like that. It depends on who you're with. Solo self-care or partner intimacy? Okay. Clear instructions or
the only child in me, I prefer solo, because if it's the wrong partner, it's going.
But I'm gonna be honest with you, as I've gotten into my 30s, I am quite feral during ovulation cycle.
I feel you.
when I do not like
When
men
you're
that much.
ovulating?
Trust me.
I'm just being honest. That's why I'm like, this is that.
Well, like, it depends on what person is talking upstairs. Some days I could be my own partner. Again, I know most of my issues.
Okay. So clear instructions or intuitive flow? I'm gonna be a bit of a bofer because, again, as the great Pastor Jill Scott said, if you can tell me what to do, you can tell me what to do. Some people can't really give like the instructions because now it's like, shut up.
No, but see,
And now I'm about to instruct you.
the neuro in me, if you give me the wrong instruction, don't be mad when I do what I thought I heard.
Or when you get a different result. What they say?
Don't be mad. Mother, don't be mad.
Okay. Did any one of those like stick out to any of you, like from that section?
I think that was the biggest one for me, the last one, because like there are some times when my neurons be going, and then I've had partners, no, that's not what I meant. And then I will stop whatever type of scene we in, and I'll be like, listen here. I didn't understand. I don't know. My nature ain't rising no more because you piss me off.
They got to talk you through it.
They got to
Listen.
take you through there.
Well, you can't because you don't even know how to take yourself through there, but that's a different story.
Oh, wow. Okay. Anyone else?
I mean, I think they all struck me in a way that it just made me realize that like our sexual experiences and lives are so variable. Like, yeah, there's sometimes that I want to be, for lack of a better term, getting fucked in the middle of a concert or something. But like, then there's
Okay, girl.
like, they're talking about it a sensory rich space. So
That's what
like,
take you through
sometimes
that.
that will like add to the experience. It'll make things like so much hotter. But like, I think maybe most times I want it to be quiet. I don't know. Just depends. Like, I think it's just going to depend on where we're at. And I think that speaks to just like the amazing reality of being different people on different days sometimes.
Yes.
Or in different moments of that one day.
Absolutely. What about you?
I mean, it goes back.
You back at that Hoya lift? You back at that damn lift?
No, I'm not actually.
Not this time.
No, but here
People
it
gonna
is.
be around here not having access to
United
what
States
they
medical
need.
system is already expensive. So if you got a $5,000 piece of equipment, you might as well use it to the best of your abilities.
It's like, I'm going to be looking out for those Hoya lifts.
That's
now.
what I'm
Like,
saying.
I'm going to see
People-
like, where does someone have it on their profile? Because I'm going to be looking for
No,
it.
because like for real, I've known people who that's how I found out, because somebody was to say was in a car accident, they got better, and they still had their Hoya lift. I was like, you can use that for something else, right? You ain't gotta go on Amazon to get that swing. It's right there. So like, I mean, if you want to spice it up, throw some roses on it, rose petals, glue it on it. It still works the same way.
Wow. Okay.
But no, yeah, I feel like I do like clear instructions, but I also give out chaotic instructions.
Yes.
So I take pleasure in giving out chaotic instructions to my subs. So that's different.
But see, there's a difference.
Yeah.
It's a difference doing it as a dom
Yeah.
Yes.
versus if we in the bedroom and we're engaging in certain activities and you give me the wrong instructions and then we get frustrated, motherfucker, you knew what you was getting into when we got together. You knew that I done told you and showed you how much of a neurodivergent I am.
Yeah. That.
And so when I don't do things the way that you want them done, that's your motherfucking fault.
But that's why
Ooh,
I'm also open with my partners and let them know. I had an IEP and 504 plan to CPS. Do with that as you will. work around it. So figure it out.
Oh, no, I was on the other one. I ain't have one, but I probably should have.
You needed one. Okay.
Oh no, I'm well aware.
It's okay.
I'm well aware, but
It's okay.
that also comes from car accidents and all of that other stuff that all of them came to surface after some years. But yeah, as you were
Why you gave him that look?
because you got to know the people that you work with.
Yes,
Listen,
you do.
I know myself. I am well aware that I got a whole heap of issues. But with that being said, like those are things that if you're not talking about them in the beginning, don't be mad if I brought them up and you're like, wait, what the hell had just happened? Listen here. And I
It's
don't know
gonna
why
interfere with your
today I
pleasure.
got Samuel L. Jackson spirit in me. Listen here, motherfucker. You already knew what you was getting into when you met me. You knew that my elevator is like the one in the projects that the doors open, but it's in between the floors. You knew what you was getting into. So either you gonna accept it or you gonna keep it pushing.
But that's also why, for me, I tell clients who have partners, I tell them like, hey, y'all need to have a monthly conversation because
Yes.
things change. And how do you engage in that? Because I'll be honest, I've been pegging men for over a decade. The amount of Black women who are afraid to do it, I'm like, yeah, you either save the money that you want to go on a trip with and not pay me, or learn how to do it yourself. Because that means having that actual conversation with your partner. And I think a lot of people are afraid to do that, but also afraid to what does intimacy look like on the spectrum for femme-identified folks, because the idea of intimacy is to bring the male-identified person pleasure, and they don't know how to engage in that conversation.
Well,
and that leaves them in the void as well.
Yeah, I mean, people have that when it comes to you want to have sex with someone, but you won't even go and get tested. Like, so of course we're not going to talk about pleasure. We're just going to open up a box with some surprises and see how it works. And, you get what you get or not. That's what people go through. So, legendary.
We're going to move a little long. We're going to move right along. How can people respectfully ask about a partner's access needs without making the moments feel awkward? Who want to stop?
I mean, I think like coming at it. Oh, sorry.
You know.
Okay. I mean, I think coming at it with a sense of like genuine curiosity, like actual like repartee that involves like centering that like what that person's pleasure is and how that pleasure will actually be achieved. We're gonna go back to the Hoyer lift. Like if it's like, and you see it and you can like make that sexy. You can do your best to be like, how are we going to involve this in a way that's going to make things the most pleasurable for both of us? Yeah.
Yeah, it goes back to that, but like also having those conversations. I am upfront with people and say that I have cerebral palsy. And one of the side effects of me having cerebral palsy is muscle spasms. So I'm gonna be honest. One time I was doing a scene, I think he was worried that I had a seizure because my body started to convulse. It was fine, but those are conversations you have to have when you're engaging in intimacy. Of like, hey, these are some things that could happen. And so like, let's have those conversations to one, not freak out throw off the whole mood. And now you calling 911 like, what are we having those conversations? Are we placing these safe boundaries and putting boundaries in place to make sure that everybody is being cared for?
That's deep.
Yeah. I think I want to ask, how can partners become more mindful and inclusive when navigating intimacy with someone who has different access needs, and we kind of touched on that a bit. So who can answer that?
Come on, Ray.
Oh Lord, it's really
Come on, Hoya Lift. Come on, Hoya Lift. HL, let's go.
no. So it's about having those conversations. Because like even in the space of learning about sex ed and learning how to engage with my body in undergrad, I learned that there are certain things I cannot do and I can't engage in that are maybe actively painful. So I don't do it. But that means you having to have those conversations internally with yourself before you have them with somebody else. But also having that with your partner. I don't do one night stands because of that. Because I'm explicit saying like, hey, I'm not, if I do a one night stand, you touching your toes. I'm not. I'm bringing the backpack and it's just not happening. And so having that transparency in that conversation, what does access look like? Access may be engaging in a space where somebody has spastic cerebral palsy and they cannot reach what you need or their needs. So we have to bring in other aids. And what does those aids look like? It may change. It may be the standard, magic wand. But it's like, how do we engage in those conversations that are productive for everyone and make them feel valued? But also, and for me, I'll sit there and say like, hey, why don't we go to the sex shop and buy the material that we need? So you learn how to engage with my body.
Yeah.
As we are both going through this because we're both learning each other. And it shouldn't just be a one-off of, well, this is what I like. Let's try to figure out how do we work both of those puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
So it can come together as one.
Nice. Eric?
Yeah, I mean, so pardon going into kind of social worky terms, but like I do feel like cultural humility is kind of like key as a partner, and like doing your damn research, but also realizing that your partner or whoever you're having sex with or whoever you're engaging with a disability is the master of their own body and their own experience, and recognizing that any assumption you make is going to make you a jerk, and giving folks the floor to be themselves, and like having the ability to like surrender your own opinions, your own judgments, your own like hangups, whatever, and just like allowing the person who's sitting, laying across from you, on top of you, whatever, like to just be the person that you learn from.
Love it. All right. So quick reminder, sexual wellness includes knowing your status. Here at Project Vida, we offer free and confidential HIV and STI screening at home. We make it accessible, private, and convenient. When you get tested, you'll receive a free toy box filled with adult wellness products. Watch this video to learn how.
Your sexual wellness just got a glow up. Test, play, repeat. The free, discreet, and easy way to take control of your health. Order a no-cost STI test kit right to your door. No labels, no shame, no schedule hassles. Or stop by Project Vida in person. Either way, you score a $200 premium toy box curated for your pleasure. Here's how it works. Scan the QR. Sign up in 2 minutes. Test at home or in person. Get fast, reliable results. Then claim your reward because self-care is sexy. Because pleasure and protection go hand in hand. Because knowing your status is confidence. Test, play, repeat. Your wellness, your way.
And we're back. Knowing your status is one of the first steps when considering your sexual wellness. So always remember, test, play, repeat. Test, play, repeat. To show you how easy and accessible getting tested is, for our demo, Eric and Madame Trixie will walk us through a mock testing session.
Thank you. So, Eric, what can I expect when getting tested, and will it hurt?
Well, so when people come to get an HIV or an STI test from me at Project Vida, part of that experience is to create a space where folks have the ability to not only think about their pleasure and maximizing their pleasure, but finding the space to actually just have that conversation as well. And my role as an HIV tester is to give people that floor, and I can do my best to, navigate that conversation with somebody, but the goal is to have that person, have a moment to express their sexuality, think about what they want, and talk about how to stay at a place that they are getting the level of safety that is going to be best for them and their scenario. And as far as the actual HIV testing, I have sat across from some very, very, very needle scared people. I will say it does involve a finger poke. So most HIV and STI testing does involve the collection of some sort of a sample. A lot of times that is blood. So there is that, and folks are squeamish, and that's okay. What I will say is I've had a lot of people that are really scared, and they have gotten poked and they didn't even realize that it happened. So it depends, but sometimes it might hurt a little bit. But I'm going to say, don't think about that. Okay. And so I am so grateful that you're going to allow me to give you an HIV test. So let's go ahead and make that happen, shall we?
Yes.
Okay. So.
You need to move the chat container over.
Uh,
Okay. So what do you talk us through
Yeah.
what your steps, what you're doing as you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to accept the hand and finger that the person that I'm testing gives to me. If they don't, I'll ask them for their non-dominant hand, and I will pull from their middle finger because that is where the most circulation comes from.
What did you do first, though?
Well, what did I do first? I wiped off your finger with an alcohol pad, sanitizing the hand, super important. Even after we do that, we're still going to wipe away the first drop of blood because that first drop of blood is going to be contaminated with skin cells and the germs on those skin cells. So that's what I'm going to do right now. After I poke you. So 1, 2, 3. And well, okay, there we go. All right. All right. Sorry, man. Trixie? Okay. All right. Well, you're a little bit of a slow bleeder. How dare you? But we're gonna imagine that this full file is filled with blood, and I'm gonna have you hold pressure right there.
Okay.
And I'm going to put the sample into the sample diluent, which allows the blood to be processed through the testing device. And it's going to go through. And then we are going to put in the developing solution, which allows the HIV test to be read. All right. And then when that happens, I'm going to go ahead and get a Band-Aid on you. You don't want blood splurting everywhere. Okay.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go like that. And we are then going to clarify the test and we will be able to read a result in less than 1 minute. So relatively painless, very fast, very efficient, and it allows you to update your status so that you know where you're at in this realm of your sexual wellness. And so like that's what I talk to all my participants. Like this is something that you can do to take control of this aspect of your wellness. It's super accessible here at Project Vida. It's super low barrier. It's, you know, we offer it on free or low cost basis to everybody. So we try our best to make this something that is just a normal part of people's just sexual journey and holistic sexual wellness. Yeah, and so that's that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for making this easy, accessible, and allowing others to take control of their pleasure by knowing their status.
For sure.
So thank you very much.
Thank you both. Eric and Madame, when we're thinking about just our sexual health and just taking care of ourselves, what are some simple ways that people can make intimacy more accessible right away? And I'm gonna go to my left.
Ways to do that. Finding ways to communicate, be it safe words. I've had folks who do a set of taps with particular fingers. There's just a combination of ways to make sure that people can communicate their needs and stopping, keep going, so forth and so on, and making that accessible. It just depends, but also means engaging and having conversations.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Eric?
Yeah, I mean, we can leave from this very live stream and just talk about sex and disability. I mean, it's like, you know, if it's something that you haven't been able to broach, hopefully through this conversation, there's tools that we have now to like feel comfortable talking about it in reflection of ourselves, of our partners, of folks that we live within community. So I think like, if we want to make it accessible right away, let's again, like, yeah, open up the conversation and make it something that people not only talk about, but feel comfortable talking about, and destigmatizing like this thing that a lot of us feel they don't have the ability to talk about, or like don't know the proper, don't know how to integrate it into conversation with their partners or something like that. And I think one of the good things that happen here is just putting voice to that, that part of us and part of our partners in our community. And I think it's important.
Mm-hmm. I think that I would add, and I guess it would go into the next question I want to ask. My response was about how is communication about intimacy different when considering accessibility, right? Like, how are you communicating differently? And I think we've kind of touched on some of that. For me, I think I would just say, knowing that, like you said, we all deserve to have access to our pleasure. And it may take you as the person with the different ability to really express your needs freely. And on the other side, as the person listening, if there's something that you don't understand, really be open to asking more questions, being more curious, and don't assume anything, as well as checking in maybe more frequently while the intimate moment is happening. And also considering things like, somebody may not be as well lubed up as the next person, depending on if they have medications that they're taking, right? Or they may not be able to get into certain positions. So be mindful of that. Ask about that, their mobility. So
Let's move a little bit further. I think you have a reminder for us, madam. Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. A reminder about our sexual health.
Yes. So I want to give you another reminder about accessible sexual health matters, and that you can get a at-home HIV and STI screening through Project Vida. And we make it easy for everyone to take care of themselves. To add, you'll also receive that free toy box, something like this one, valued at over $250.
Now it's time for Just a Tip section.
Just a
Tonight,
tip.
Just a Tip is simple but powerful, part of self-care. Ask, don't assume. Everybody is different. Every need is valid. Instead of guessing what someone can or can't do, ask them what feels good, what feels safe, and what feels possible.
That was just a tip, but we can go deeper. As we prepare to wrap up, I want to ask our guests, our panelists, and our online audience, I want to ask, what is one thing that you learned tonight about accessibility and intimacy? If you are online, feel free to drop your questions or your comments in the chat. And if you are in the audience here with us, raise your hand. We'll bring a mic over to you, and you can ask a question or make a comment about something that you learned about tonight.
Well, we'll start,
I guess. Yes.
Sure. I think I just was truly reminded just of the adaptability and the potential for folks to be accommodating. I think at our core, we want to receive pleasure, and I would hope we'd want to give pleasure to the folks that we are having sex with. And I think taking that time to, we've said it a million times, having that conversation, it's always going to be the best thing to have. And you can have that conversation, and then you can go at it. You can check up with the person, but maybe just go at it. As long as you've had a really open conversation that truly you're listening, and you're recognizing that even if there's something that might be different for you to have to accommodate another person, or vice versa, if you're able to listen and really put in the effort, then it's all golden. And I also learned about Hoya lifts.
That Hoya lift, somebody going to find out how much they cost. Are they on sale right now?
It's probably at least 3 of my paychecks.
Oh my God, what's the price?
Wait, 125?
What? And it's on Craigslist for y'all real nasty
That one
folks.
might not have all the parts to it.
Somebody cleaned out their medical
We
equipment.
have a question in the audience?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So when often talking about ability or accessibility, individuals with visible and non-visible disabilities, people aren't necessarily considering as you age. When you start talking about your abilities and changing as you age, what are some considerations or adjustments that you all would talk about, or how to navigate those things?
For the folks that's 40 and fine and 50 and fine and above, I think things you may not be able to hop into that next pose as quick as you were before. You might have to make some accommodations for yourself, right? You might have to, I don't know, really eat your Wheaties to support yourself. And I will say too, don't judge yourself either, because you could have Back in the day, yeah, you could throw that ass in a circle and it was okay. Now you might just be at a half moon. Right. You in a triangle, you in a half moon. It might just be you threw your hip and maybe out. I don't know, but don't judge yourself. Be mindful about yourself and what you need. You know, like you might need that pillow for support, not because you're trying to get a different position, but like, listen, my back.
This also comes back to medical equipment. That hospital pillow. That triangle hospital pillow that helps you angle
the one for your, listen.
No, it's one for your leg, it's one for your back.
That thing, it looked like a block of cheese. It definitely, helps keep
multitasking.
It multitask. It's a multitasker.
Well, I'm going to quote the great Gloria. She used to say, my grandmother used to say, I ain't dead yet. And Kentucky was on the side of my grandfather's bed until almost the day they died. He was they were in their 80s and still having good pleasure together. Mm-hmm. So I feel like the problem is that as we age, people think you age, so your sex gone. It don't. In fact, my problem has been when I've had encounters with people who are older than I am. I'm like, listen.
That makes me think of that episode of Girlfriends when she met an older man that was, I don't know, she was 30. He was like 70 or 80. And she thought it was good at first. And then he kept going on and she looked like she was in a nightmare and had to break up with him because she found out he wasn't on Viagra and he was just going on and on and on. It was like a torture chamber.
It's at certain points for older men, they become teenagers again. And that's why we need to have sex education in the senior living facilities.
Well,
and also testing.
And testing.
Oh my God, the testing
the
for them.
highest, and I could be wrong, but one of the highest
you're not
levels, wrong. I'm like, I felt like the episode of Golden Girls. Condoms, Rose, condoms.
No, I'm going to go back to a couple of years ago. I ended up having to do a temporary stay at a nursing home. And we had a gonorrhea outbreak. And they was like, oh, we need to test you. I was like, no, we don't. That ain't got nothing to do with me. Mm-hmm. They got to do with that wing over there. Yeah. They ain't got nothing to do with me over here. They are running rampant. And that's why I keep telling you either have disabled people who are infantilized or elderly folks who are infantilized. And if both of them mash up together, and you just got a place where you just sitting up there saying like, oh, thank God y'all can't get pregnant. But, oh, God, y'all need to all get tested.
Yes. And there's that education that is needed because you have to think about the times that we live in and where someone of a certain age, where they came from. And they might not have thought that testing was needed. And it's like, no, y'all had stuff. It just didn't have a name. And you took a penicillin shot and it was all good.
I'm going to be honest with you. I remember when that breakout happened, some of them said, I'm waiting for Jesus at the door. Take me. So some of them don't care. They're just like, I'm waiting to be called home. But at the same time, let's be safe about it.
Yeah, you don't have to be called home for gonorrhea. I'm just going to let y'all know that is very treatable.
Really?
It's very treatable. Please. And also can be preventable in a variety of ways if we talk about risk reduction.
Yes. We have another question.
What are some of the biomedical ways of preventing chlamydia and gonorrhea?
Some biomedical, well, there's this amazing thing called DoxyPep. Anyone, a show of hands in the room or in the panel who's heard of DoxyPep? Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, so DoxyPEP is a shortening of doxycycline post-exposure prophylaxis. It is again, a biomedical intervention. So it is the use of 2 doxycycline pills. That's an antibiotic that folks can take up to 72 hours after a potential exposure to gonorrhea, chlamydia, or syphilis. And obviously, like most things, the closer you take it to your exposure, the higher the efficacy rate. But it is a great tool that we have in our toolkit. What I will say is where we're currently at, which is a very frustrating place, is that there hasn't been enough research done on folks who are assigned female at birth as far as DoxyPEP is concerned. I do know several physicians who are gung-ho and they make sure that folks get what they need. And yeah, there's varying degrees of efficacy as far as the types of infections that we're trying to stop, but it's about 90% effective for chlamydia, 70% effective for syphilis, and 30% for gonorrhea. But gonorrhea's, it mutates a lot.
Yes. Okay. We have another question.
So mine is more of a comment. When we talk about invisible disabilities, one thing that people don't always realize is antidepressants can affect your sexual experience, whether that's your ability to get it up or if it's your ability to be aroused. And sometimes it changes how you orgasm. So sometimes people don't always realize that maybe it's not about the person not being into you or something like that. Maybe, they just trying to stay alive in the world, and some of their medications may be affecting their sexual drive.
Mm-hmm. I think that's very a good point. And it leads you into the space of, what else do you and your partner have access to create intimacy outside of sex, right? Like, what are other things that you can do that can support you in exploring intimacy, right? Until you get to that place. And it might not be that day. But use your tools, right? Be curious around that too.
Nice. Well, before we close, here's what's coming up next.
Tomorrow, Monday, April the 20th, in honor of 420, Project Vida and Link Up are hosting High Score, a cannabis-friendly space with games, conversation, and a lifted experience. High Score is completely free, and it will be taking place at Club Escape, located at 1530 East 75th Street, from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m.
The Mind, Body, and Soul Health and Wellness Circle brings my favorite F word, FREE, mental, spiritual, and physical wellness services.
I think that's your second favorite F word.
Since I'm a cheat, so it is my first. For Black, gay, bisexual, and same gender loving men, join us for free fitness, dance, yoga, and cooking classes, as well as acupuncture and massage therapy 6 days a week. Every Monday, tomorrow is Monday, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., MBS has Meal Prep Mondays, led by Chef Blake. For more information about any of these events, just call us at 773-277-2291 to register. Also, MBS has massages on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Yes. Link Up Chicago has its twice monthly drop-ins for Black same-gender loving men. Join us every second Saturday at New Covenant Church on 77th and Cottage Grove at our sober space. Link Up Sanctuary, and every fourth Saturday for our harm reduction space. Link Up Lounge at the center on Cottage Grove, located at 6323 South Cottage Grove. Both are from 2 p.m. Both are from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. And for more information, you can call or text us at 844-942-LINK. That's 844-942-5465.
And don't forget, if you're here in person, remember, you can get tested for free at Project Vida. Walk-ins are welcome Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you want that beautiful toy box, all you have to do to get it delivered, just sign up for your free HIV STI test, call for your results, and it is on the way. Remember, test, play, repeat. Test, play, repeat.
Yes. So thank you. A great big thanks to our team here at Project Vida, our production team. A great big thanks to all of our panelists that was here. It was an honor and a pleasure to connect with you all today. Our audience here and online, we thank you for being here. And thank you to my amazing co-hosts and everyone for joining us tonight. And we look forward to seeing you next month.
This has been Toy With Me, Sexy Forever Body. Until next time,
Stay curious
stay safe.
and keep it sexy.
Bye.